The next section we're going to go into is files, pipes, and permissions here, and we're going to go with interacting with files. And so we're going to get more into how to read files, interact with files, those kinds of things. And so this section in particular, and what you're going to see for this, like I'm going to go over just a lot of programs that you need to know, or commands, or whatever you want to think of them as. Okay, so let's just go ahead and hop back into it. So open your command line here, which I got. So one of them I want to introduce you to right away is one called less. And less allows you to read a file, so it's kind of like Vim, that you're opening it into like a full page like reader mode, but it's just for reading, it's not for writing or anything like this, or anything else. So if I say less text file.txt, notice it throws me into this file, and I'm in like a whole program now, and it actually even kind of looks a little bit like Vim. But this allows me to read a file, and it's really good for long files. And then when I'm done with it, it's the same thing as Vim. I just hit Q, and it pops me back out of it. So less is one that's really useful to know. Let's just go in here to the text file really quick, and I'm just going to make it super long. So if I say insert, and I'm just going to add a bunch of new lines here. Okay, so now if I look at less text file.txt, now if I hit down and up, you can see it's scrolling up and down. That's what less is really good for. Less is really good for long files. And there's special shortcuts for like navigating quickly that I don't know because I don't use less enough to learn all the shortcuts. And that's another kind of thing that you'll find with these bash commands is you'll invest time into the tools that you use a lot. Like I know Git very, very well because I use Git probably the most on the command line. But do I know less very well? No, I don't. Yeah, so there's like a way you can like search. I think if you say like slash and then type hey, yeah, so you can like search for things. I remember that. You can use slash, but there's a bunch of things like that like less can do for you. And yeah, cool. So a question that a lot of people probably have is, what about more, right? Because we're talking about less, but what about more? So if I say more text file.txt, pretty similar, right? You kind of get popped into this same sort of thing. When should you use less and when should you use more? Just use less. So more is the older version of, or older version. It's an older program that someone down the line got sick of the things that less or that more couldn't do, so they wrote less. And again, being a snarky computer scientist, they called it the opposite of more. So that's where the name less comes from, is it's the newer version of more. More is just included because it's been there historically, which is again a very common pattern for which ones are included. And less just has more features. It's just a general better thing to learn. So I would say just learn less. Yeah, less is a better thing to learn. And there's other things that are even newer than less, like there's most, right? But most isn't installed by default. And I tend to just learn the ones that are installed by default. Cool. So that's less. Very useful for reading long documents or documents of any variety, really. Yep. It's meant to mimic Vim to some degree, the same keys. All right, so let's talk about man, M-A-N. So man stands for manual, and it's if you want to like get in depth about a program, it'll give you the manual basically for those programs. So if I say man less, it'll give me the manual for less, right? So if I scroll down here, it'll give me like a very in-depth way of like, here is like everything you could ever want to know about less. And you can see it's pretty long. Like you can see down at the bottom, I'm on, it's about 1,000 lines long. That's how long it is. Now the reason why I showed you less before I showed you man is that man uses less. So if you learn how to use less, you already know how to use man. But the nice thing about it is like you can also do less dash dash help, and this will give you like the abbreviated version, right? You can see here it's the summary of less commands, right? But man will give you like the entire manual. Now, you might ask me like, how often do I actually end up using man? Not very much, because it's usually too much information. It's usually more information that I want, and I'm usually better off just Googling for whatever thing I'm looking for if I'm getting into the man pages. It is useful for whatever reason, like if you don't have an internet connection and you want to look at how to use a program, man can be useful. But also not everything has a man page as well. So keep that in mind as well. Like I don't know if Python 3 has a man page. It does, so it does. So some of them don't have man pages. But yeah, if you want like the exhaustive thing, use man. If you want just like the abbreviated version, use dash dash help. All right, let's pop into cat. It's one that I end up using a lot. So if I say cat textfile.txt, it just prints everything out, and it doesn't do it in like less, where like less gives you like a nice scrolling, makes it like nice to read. Cat just like grabs the entire file and spits it out for you. So you can see here I said cat text file, this is Brian, blah blah blah. It also has all of those empty lines there in the middle. So if you have like a really short text file, and like it's pretty useful to use cat instead of less. We'll use cat more later, because what it's actually doing is it's actually adding that file to standard out, and you can use that to be really interesting. But if you don't know what standard out is yet, we'll talk about that in a little bit. You might ask why it's called cat. It's from concatenate, so it's concatenating your file to the standard out. That's why it's called cat. Okay. We already saw tail a little bit. So if I say tail textfile.txt, notice it just outputs like the last 10 lines. That can be really useful for various different reasons. Like if you want to just like look at the logs, but you only want to see like the last 10 things from the logs, you can say tail textfile.txt. And it's the same thing with head. It'll just do the first 10 lines. And you can control how many lines that is. How many is it? It's n. So if I say tail-n3 textfile.txt, it only gives me 3 lines. Same thing with head. And same thing if I want, 50, it'll give me the first 50 lines. So this can be useful if you're looking for just like one particular part of the file. We also showed you the -f, which shows you, you see in real time as, sorry, this is tail-f textfile.txt. This will show me in real time as things are added to the file. Right now nothing is being added to it, but if there were, they would show up. This would be useful for like tailing the logs. In fact, you might have even heard that term before, tailing the logs, right? It's from this tail. So if you do that, then you can just Control C to get out of that. In fact, yeah, I'll show you this. You don't necessarily have to follow along with this, but I'll show you. If I do tail-f text file, and then I'm going to open another terminal, so I can say here inside of this multipass shell primary. So you can see here I have 2 terminals running on the same thing. So if I say echo hi, and I'm going to attach that at the end of textfile.txt. If I go into here, you can see it found hi, because I added new information into using this dash dash operator. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but all that does is it appends new text to the end of a file. But there you go. That's what the tail dash f is if you want to follow in real time those files having things added to them. Cool. Let's get into make directory. So I'm here in my primary, my Ubuntu home directory. Let's say I wanted to make a new folder in here. You can say make directory, mkdir, and I'm just going to call it my new folder. And you can see here, I made a new folder. And so I can say cd my directory, and you can make more folders as much as you want. So that's one you'll end up using a lot. One that I end up using quite a bit as well is mkdir dash capital P, or no, sorry, dash lowercase p. And then if you give it multiple folders, it'll create all those folders for you. So I can say dash p, hi, my name is Brian. So now you can see I made a file or a folder called hi, and in here is another my, and you can just, my name is Brian, right? I don't know why you would do that, but it's there. So the dash p just allows you to make multiple folders nested all at once.